If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the UO. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. Joining me in segment number 2, we've got Steve Gardner aboard. He does great work over at USA Today Sports, taking a look at the game that we all know and love, and we're going to be diving in on these playoff races. The final few days of the regular season, as looks like they're going to be very, very meaningful with what we all got on Friday, and we're going to be taking a look at just how to gauge some of these playoff races. How open is it in the American League? Can anyone slay the Atlanta Braves out there in the National League, and how do they do so? We're going to be asking Steve that, and so much more in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Not getting any Twitter questions today, but these playoff races, they remain hot, they remain heavy, so let's dive in. Let's take a look back at everything that we got on Friday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Small bit of cleanup from Thursday as well, as the Greg Peterson experience being from midnight to 3 Eastern time. Had to do this before we knew the result of the Seattle Mariners and Texas Rangers Game 1. And that one went to Seattle by a count of 3-2 as Jordan Montgomery turned a really good start. Gave up a solo home run over the course of 6 innings. Julio Rodriguez, 32nd home run in the campaign. Logan Gilbert gives up a pair of home runs as Leody Taveras gets his 14th of the campaign, and Adolis Garcia's 39th. And then from there, bullpen implosion for Texas. Andrew Heaney, Jose Leclerc, they turn a scoreless inning. Ronald Chapman loads the bases, and Jonathan Hernandez could not keep them on, as for Seattle, it was a RBI double from J.P. Crawford that was able to win the game. As for Seattle, their bullpen was nails. Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz combined for 2 scoreless innings, and then Isaiah Campbell, he turns a scoreless inning as well. And then fast forward to Friday, 8-0, no excitement needed in the 9th inning here for Seattle. As for Texas, Nathan Eovaldi, they just can't rely upon him during the postseason at this point. 7 runs surrendered in 3 1/3 innings. He has not been himself since coming out the injured list. Bullpen from there did fine. Josh Saboris, a scoreless inning. Will Smith got jiggy with it, a scoreless inning. Jordan Latz, 2 scoreless innings. And Brock Burke gives up a solo home run over the course of his 2/3 inning of work. And for the Rangers, they leave 12 men on base and they go 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. Brian Wu did not say woohoo to a good start. He went 3 2/3 innings. He kept it scoreless. From there, Taylor Skato got a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Trent Thornton picks up the W. He goes 5 outs, doesn't allow a run. And then Isaiah Campbell, Dominic Leone, Edward Barzardo, they all go for a scoreless inning. They combined for 5 walks, but they kept it clean. So the Seattle Mariners able to get the job done on Thursday and Friday, and that keeps things alive, though. The Astros, to the chagrin of my DK Network Rida pick, they get it done by a count of 2-1. Just a rough game in general for Arizona, as really both of these teams could not hit with men in scoring position. The Astros go 1 of 8 with men in scoring position. The Arizona Diamondbacks 0 of 8 with men in scoring position, as Jose Urquidy got the start at the last second. JP France apparently had some emergency pop up to where he couldn't make the start. Urquidy, 6 scoreless innings. This was his first start in an eon. Phil Maton, Hector Neris both turned a scoreless inning, then Ryan Presley, unearned run allowed, as Jose Altuve had a bad fielding error that extended the game, and it very nearly costed them, but it did not, as Zach Gallen, and he pitched solid. He gave up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Andrew Selfrank gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Ryan Thompson, Kevin Ginkel, they both turned a scoreless inning, but absolutely nothing doing for this Arizona Diamondbacks offense, and that's rough for them out there in the National League playoff race, but they were helped out by the fact that the Chicago Cubs fall to the Milwaukee Brewers by a count of 4-3, and a baseball betting show connection here. I actually went to high school with the man that got the win in this game, Caleb Elsley. He was actually a year younger than me. I remember playing cards in study hall with him. He gets his first pitching ninja appearance. He gets his first appearance with the Milwaukee Brewers, gives up his first home run, gets his first blown save, and gets his first win. 4-3 the final as he came in after Colin Ray went 5 scoreless innings. From there, Bryce Wilson a scoreless inning. Clayton Andrews, he gives up 2 runs at 1 2/3 innings, including a home run. Going deep off of him, Jameer Candelario, 22nd home run of the season. Then Ian App in the 9th inning took our good friend Mr. Bauschle deep, his 21st home run of the season. But we did have Mr. Bauschle coming in the 10th inning, got a scoreless inning. That takes a lot of moxie. 5 punch-outs for him as Cubs strike out 14 times in this one, and they are a game and a half back, and they pretty much need to win out to make the playoffs at this point. As for the Milwaukee Brewers, they go 2 of 9 with men in scoring position. As for the Cubs, the Professor and Kyle Hendricks did not have it. 3 runs surrendered in 4 1/3 innings, and bullpen performed admirably. Julian Merriweather, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Drew Smiley, Edgar Alzolay, they turn a scoreless inning. Mark Leiter Jr. gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Jose Cuas, he comes in to get the final out of the 9th. Game in the 10th, and the Brewers walk it off with Carlos Santana being able to get an RBI double. He also had a triple in this game to get it done. The Miami Marlins on seemingly no sleep whatsoever, because you may recall the rain game that we saw in New York on Thursday. They come back to win by a count of 4-3. They had nothing going on, and then in the 8th inning, a dead tired team, I'm sure they were dead tired, they come up with a 4 spot to be able to get the job done. Edward Cabrera did not have it in this one. 3 runs, 2 of which earned in 3 2/3 innings. Command was all over the place. Bullpen at his back, though. How about Tanner Scott, David Robertson, Huascar Brazob, and JT Chargois all turning a scoreless inning. Stephen Okert, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. By the way, the Miami Marlins, they still have the fewest losses in one-run games this far this year, and the second most wins of any team in one-run games. They are now 33-13 in one-run games. I have no idea how they're doing it, but somehow, some way, they are doing it. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you got yourself a nice open out of Oswaldo Bido. He goes 2 scoreless innings. Hunter Stratton from there, 2 scoreless. You were able to have Ryan Baruchi come in. He gets 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. So it was Colin Selby that gave up all 4 of those runs, by the way, as Kyle Nicholas. He did his job with 2 scoreless innings, and then Carmen Moldezinski and Cody Bolton tried to clean it up. Moldezinski, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Cody Bolton, the scoreless inning, but Miami, they are now in control of that final wild card spot, but they still have to hold off the Cincinnati Reds. And the Cincinnati Reds, I think, match the point total that we saw from the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football. 19-2, they pulverize the St. Louis Cardinals. As going deep for the Cincinnati Reds, we're just going to go down the list here. You had Tyler Stevenson get his 13th home run season, Nick Martini his 5th home run season, Jonathan India his 17th home run season, Noel V. Marte of the Marte Parte his 2nd home run of the season, Spencer Steer his 23rd home run season, Christian Encarnacion Strand his 13th home run season, and for Brandon Williamson, fills 6 innings, gives up 2 runs, including a home run, before you were able to get 3 nice scoreless innings out of Carson Spires in this one. Going deep for St. Louis, home run number 6 of the season for guy that actually like Richie Palacios, and for the Woodford, Jake Woodford, not the start he was looking for, gave up 7 runs and got 5 outs. From there, Casey Lawrence, he got 5 outs, he gave up 5 runs. Andrew Suarez, 3 2/3 innings, gives up 5 runs, only 2 of which was earned. They had a trio of errors out there in the field. Mason Wynn, the young prospect for the Cardinals, is currently hitting a .175 with the .236 on base, and he had 2 errors. That's not good. Jacob Barnes, 2 unearned runs given up in his inning of work, and Matthew Liberatore actually turned a scoreless inning. So, yay, verily there. You saw the LA Dodgers take it to the San Francisco Giants 6-2 on a day where Gabe Kapler was needlessly fired by the San Francisco Giants. Why he was fired, nobody knows. He did a very, very good job. He does not deserve to be out of a job, and he will have one by the beginning of next year. But that's it for the Dodgers. Trio of home runs. JD Martinez, 33rd home run of the campaign. Freddie Freeman, his 29th. And Will Smith gets jiggy with it for his 19th. As All three of those come off of Keaton Wynn, 6 runs surrendered in 5 1/3 innings. Sean Hejele was able to go 3 2/3 innings scoreless, and then Wilmer Flores gets his 23rd home run of the campaign. That comes off of Lance Lynn. Lynn gives up that home run. 2 runs a total, of course, of 6 innings before Ryan Brazier, Joe Kelly, Bruce Sutter, Grider all turn a scoreless inning. Very rare under for the Dodgers on the road. They have played north of 2/3 of their games on the road to the over. So that was a little bit of an oddity. Not an oddity is the Oakland A's losing. That is loss number 111 for them. The LA Angels get the job done by a count of 5-1. For the A's, Ken Waldichuk, well, he chucked out there a bad performance. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, surrendered in 5 innings, including a home run to Mr. Mickey Moniak, his 14th home run of the season. From there, Adrian Martinez, 2 scoreless innings. Francisco Perez, a scoreless inning as well. And then for the LA Angels, Chase Silseth was piggybacked by Mr. Davis Daniel. Daniel, 5 scoreless innings. Silseth goes 4 innings, allows a run, so the Angels, they're able to get that done with relative ease. The San Diego Padres, they won a 1-run game. I believe that this was their 8th 1-run win of the season. 3-2, they take down the Chicago White Sox. As for the Padres, you had Nick Martinez turn a good start, 8 punch-outs with 5 scoreless innings. You did have things get interesting as Robert Suarez and Josh Hader both allow a home run in an inning. As going deep for the Southsiders, you had home run number 11 of the season for Yohan Moncada, and for Mr. Carlos Perez, this is not a call-up or anything like that. He's been with the team throughout the season. He gets his first home run of the campaign. Meanwhile, for the White Sox, don't see a solid performance. 1 run surrendered in 5 innings before you don't mess with a Yohan Ramirez got messed with. 2 runs surrendered while getting 2 outs. From there, Davey Garcia, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Sammy Peralta, Lane Ramsey combined for a scoreless inning before Brian Shaw turns a scoreless inning, but Padres also had Luis Garcia, Tom Cosgrove combined for a scoreless inning, and Scott Barlow gets 1 scoreless. They're able to get that one in. The Atlanta Braves as relatively sizable favorites, and I was talking about this on the show. They open up north of $3 favorites. That was a little bit too high. The Nationals take it to them by a count of 10-6 for the Nationals. A vulgar display of power as Carter Kieboom, 4th home run season off of Mr. Winanis. You also had home run number 12 for Dominic Smith. Lane Thomas, 28th home run season. Keibert Ruiz gets his 18th home run season. And Jake Alou, home run number 2 of the campaign, as it was 6 runs surrendered by Alan Winanis. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Winans? Hopefully I got that correct, but for our good friend Winans, we'll go with that. He gives up 3 home runs along the way. Brad Hand gives up his home run. It is 2/3 of an inning of work. Jesse Chavez, he goes 1 inning, giving up 3 runs, 1 of which was earned before Jackson Stevens. 2 scoreless innings. And for the Braves, they put up 6 runs despite the fact that they went 3 of 17 with Ben in scoring position and left 15 on base. I mean, that's just the Braves offense right there. As Trevor Williams, he gives up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings while giving up 7 hits and 2 walks. From there, Jose Ferrar, he goes 2/3 of an inning, giving up 2 runs. Jordan Weems gives up a run in an inning. Andres Machado, Joe La Sorsa, they both get a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Hunter Harvey, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and Kyle Finnegan was able to turn a scoreless inning of his own. The Tampa Bay Rays punted on their game against the Blue Jays as they lose by a count of 11-4. Aaron Savali pulled after getting 5 outs and giving up a solo home run. Going deep for the Toronto Blue Jays, home run number 8 of the season for Alejandro Kirk. Don't call his name. And then from there, Matt Chapman gets home run number 17 of the campaign. Brandon Belt is 18th. Those both come off of Erasmo Ramirez, who he gives up 6 runs, 4 of which were earned over the course of 3 innings. Zach Little does not come up big. 3 runs surrender while getting 4 outs out of the bullpen. Taj Bradley, who I thought he was going to be starting a game in this series, he gives up a run in an inning, and Colin Boucher was able to give you a scoreless inning as well, yet as Yandy Diaz was able to get home run number 22 of the campaign. That comes off of Yusei Kikuchi, allows 3 runs over the course of 5 innings before Chad Green gives up a run in his inning. Jay Jackson, 2 scoreless innings, and Yimi Garcia, a scoreless inning. Rare over in Toronto, by the way. North of 60% of their home games have been going under this season. The Guardians have been one of your top under teams in baseball, but this game goes well over. They take down the Detroit Tigers by a count of 7-5. Last series for old Tito and Bo Naylor and Tristan Freeman are trying to send him out a winner. They both go deep off of Joey Wentz. For Naylor, 11th home run season. Freeman is 3rd. As for Joey Wentz, 7 runs surrendered while getting 7 outs. The bullpen from there did great. Tyler Holton, 2 scoreless innings. Jose Cicero, 2 scoreless innings. Trey Wingenter, he goes for a scoreless inning. Andrew Vasquez gets 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but damage had been done despite the fact that Zach McKinstry goes deep off Cal Quantrill's 9th home run season, and Spencer Torkelson, home run number 31 off of Emmanuel Clase for Quantrill, gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Sam Entiges, Añal de los Santos, along with Reynaldo Lopez, they both give you a scoreless inning before Clase gives up that solo home run, and the Boston Red Sox get a 3-0 win over the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles offense seems to be in a little bit of a funk these last few days, as for John Means, relatively solid performance, gives up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings, did allow a home run to Trevor Story. It was Story time for the 3rd time this season, and Nick Pivetta, 10 punch-outs in 7 scoreless innings before Garrett Whitlock closes the door with a 2-inning save. From there, you did have, for the Baltimore Orioles, Shintaro Fujinami give up a run in an inning, and Ore Lopez, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. So we had ourselves a whale of a day on baseball that included Carlos Rodon giving the worst start I have ever seen in my life. The Kansas City Royals get the job done by a count of 12-5 for Carlos Rodon. He gave up 8 runs and did not record an out. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I think the last time you had someone give up at least 8 runs without getting a single out, you have to go all the way back to Edison Volquez in 2016 when he gave up like a 9 spot to the Astros. That's really bad to say the least, as Ed Alvarez took him deep for his 11th home run in the campaign, and then you would have Bobby Witt Jr. get home run number 30 of the season off of Keenan Middleton, who allows 2 runs in his inning of work. Randy Vasquez, honestly an admirable job in long relief. 6 punch-outs, gives up 1 run in 3 2/3 innings. Zach McAllister gets it out of the bullpen. Nick Ramirez, a scoreless inning, and then you had Matthew Bowman come in for 2 innings. He allows a run for Mr. Austin Wells. He went deep off of Jordan Lyles, 4th home run in the campaign, and for Jordan Lyles, he picks up a win. The team has now been able to win 7 out of his 31 starts this far this season, so yay verily, as he gave up 5 runs over the course of 6 innings. Tucker Davidson, James MacArthur, they both turned a scoreless inning, and then you also had Mr. Jonathan Bolin come in, and he was bowling his way to a scoreless inning as well. And then out there in Colorado, the Rockies, they fall to the Minnesota Twins by a count of 7-6. Not necessarily what you were looking for. Joe Ryan giving up a trio of home runs, 6 runs in total over the course of 5 innings. Grady Brendan Rodgers' 4th home run season. Elias Montero, he goes deep for his 10th home run in the campaign, and Alan Trejo was able to get his 4th home run season. Meanwhile, Ty Block was blocked of a win by allowing 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a bomb to Mr. Michael A. Taylor, 21st home run of the season. And then from there, Gavin Allwell really punted on this game. Trevor Larnach, his 7th home run season. Ryan Jeffers, his 14th, as he gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Justin Lawrence did provide 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Tyler Kinley, he gives up a run in an inning. As in the 9th inning, you had Max Kepler hit a sac fly to be able to win this one, and for the Colorado Rockies, they do go 3 of 8 with men in scoring position, but couldn't touch a bullpen. Cody Funderburk, 2 scoreless innings. Emilio Pagan, he gets his first save of the season, scoreless inning. And Brock Stewart, Caleb Theobar, they both combined for a scoreless inning of their own. And Phillies versus Metropolitans, that was a game that got rained out. And if you are taking a look at the trends that we are seeing in baseball right now, overall for the season, it is 1,142 overs, so 1,143 unders. So bookmakers have done a pretty rock solid job of being able to set those totals. Meanwhile, favorites overall for the season hitting at 57.8%, 1366 and 998 straight up. But among these favorites, we have seen now a grand total of 348. Failed to cover that -1.5 run line, and we've seen a lot of that the last 7 days. Favorites overall 53 and 32, but 16 of those favorites failing to cover the run line. Meanwhile, 48 unders to 34 overs in baseball over the last 7 days. It's been underwhelming. 58.5% of games going under. If you look at the last 30 days, you still have an over trend. 188 overs, 171 unders. Meanwhile, favorites, they've had their struggles. 210 and 165 straight up, and on the run line, 57 different favorites over the last 30 days have failed to cover -1.5. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Friday. Now, let's take a look at last few days that we're going to get in the regular season and take a look at where some of these teams might be able to surprise and disappoint in the postseason. We do so with Steve Gardner of USA Today next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units returned, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their NBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family of Podcast. It is great to be joined by this man, Steve Gardner. He does terrific work over at USA Today, taking a look at the great game of baseball. On top of that, he is their main fantasy editor over there at USA Today as well. So if there's something that you like with regards to fantasy football, he does a little bit on that front as well. For those of you that check out USA Today Sports' fantasy baseball notes and everything like that, he has been doing a great job over there for very, very many years. And you're able to follow Steve on Twitter/X at Steve A. Gardner. So his first and last name with a letter A in the middle. And Steve, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Always appreciative of the invite, and we got an awful lot to discuss.
Oh, we certainly do, and certainly it is going to be a tremendous postseason, but here on Friday and Saturday, there's still some playoff implications. We are doing this as the games are raging on for Friday, so whether or not the Cincinnati Reds are still going to be alive for a playoff spot or not, and it's a little bit TBD, but we know that the Cubs, the Miami Marlins, the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're all fighting for those final wild card spots, and what do you make out of that race for the final few wildcard spots in the National League? Because I think that there is some real intrigue, and it might linger into Monday with the very strange, and I'm going to call what it is, sad situation that we saw in New York on Thursday in that Marlins versus Mets game.
Just amazing. I guess we can start with the Diamondbacks, who I think probably count as one of the surprise teams this year, leapfrogging the San Diego Padres into second place in the NL West. They have been outstanding. Corbin Carroll, their your Rookie of the Year, slam dunk in my mind in the National League, has been the star of that team. I don't know that they're going to make a whole lot of noise in the postseason, but it's been a great year for them, and they look to be in pretty good shape. As for, as you said, what's going to happen, the Marlins and Cubs could go down to the last day of the regular season and beyond, with the Marlins and the Mets having that suspended game at Citi Field, to where the Mets could have taken care of business if they'd just gotten the Marlins out in the ninth inning. But no, the Marlins get a couple of runs, go ahead, and then the rain comes and the umpire orders the tarp out there on the field. It was just such a mess because I think most people feel like they could have gotten that game finished before the really heavy stuff came down, and we wouldn't have to worry about what would happen. If that game still means something, they have to make it up on Monday. It could be a real mess for Major League Baseball and a headache for, maybe for the Marlins if they have to finish out their regular season, finish up that game on Monday, and then begin the wild card series on Tuesday. The mind, boggles to think about all of that.
And plus, on top of that, we are unsure as of right now how the game went for Friday, but the Miami Marlins did not leave the stadium until after 1 a.m., and then they had to go on a flight/bus ride, what have you, to go to Pittsburgh to play the next day. That's just absolutely terrible. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've got, first-class seating and everything like that on a flight. That's just an absolutely brutal schedule for anyone to have to deal with. So certainly feel for the Marlins there. As joining me on the show, we do have Steve Gardner. He does great work over at USA Today Sports, and obviously there's going to be some intrigue with the National League, but there's going to be some intrigue with the American League as well. We are unsure how that Astros versus Arizona Diamondbacks game went for Friday, but with them having to trot out their Jose Urquidy in an emergency start against Zach Gallen, my guess is probably going to be not great, but if they're able to just take care of business against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who we were talking about beforehand, they are going to have Justin Verlander, it appears, on the mound on Saturday, unless if there's a last-second change of plans. They should be able to make it into the postseason, but obviously there's lots of intrigue with regards to that Rangers versus Seattle Mariners series as well, because with the Seattle Mariners, they would have been all but doomed had they not won that game on Thursday. They get a walk-off winner after it felt like they had a billion chances in that game, and they finally got it at the last possible opportunity, but big-time implications, both with the Astros versus Diamondbacks series, along with Rangers versus Seattle Mariners, really on Friday and Saturday.
The Diamondbacks, Astros, no matter who wins, it seems like there's still going to be implications for one of those teams even to the last day of the regular season, because, the spots are not locked up for either one of them. Although, the Diamondbacks, as I said, look pretty good. But again, Houston, has all the motivation in the world to try and win out. And you mentioned Justin Verlander on the mound was fabulous in his last start. So if he's, hitting his late season, postseason, and peaking at the right time, Justin Verlander could go out and throw 8 shutout innings. And then, what are the Diamondbacks? They could be reeling at that point. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And as you said, that was so much drama there where the Seattle Mariners, their season could have been over if they had lost that game to the Rangers. And the Rangers could have put it on cruise control a little bit in terms of, being able to clinch the spot maybe even sooner than later. But yeah, the Mariners are fighting, and it looked like for a while that the Mariners were the best team in the AL West. That's what I found fascinating, Greg, about this, the last couple of weeks, is that the teams have had, really, really good streaks, all three of them, and really, really bad streak. I look at the Astros losing a series to the Kansas City Royals and the Oakland A's back to back. That's not supposed to happen. So yeah, I totally expect a couple of playoff berths to still be on the line when the regular season concludes on Sunday.
To your point, this should have been just salted away with the Astros. Not just losing that series to the Royals last week, they got swept at home. Kansas City Royals. I think that's just absolutely mind-blowing. So that has cause for a lot of intrigue as well. And going back to that game that we did see on Thursday with the Mariners being able to get the walk-off winner, that did come against the Rangers bullpen. How big of a concern does that need to be going into the postseason for the Rangers? Because I look at them and the offense is humming once again ever since they've gotten Adolis Garcia and Josh Young back in the fold. But I think that could be what makes/breaks whether or not the Rangers are able to make a run on the AL side of things with regards to playoffs.
We have seen time and time again, once you get to the postseason, your starting pitchers can only carry you so far. They've been, grinding it out through 162 regular season games. You throw them into, the postseason pressure, and every pitch is a high leverage, high stress pitch. So you've got to have a great bullpen. And right now, the Rangers have the exact opposite. Aroldis Chapman can't find the plate a lot of the time, especially if he's working back-to-back days, which he was in that game against the Mariners where he melted down and had to come out after 3 batters. I worry about them. Who's going to do? Will Smith was the closer for a while and was doing fine, but now he's completely melted down. I don't know who they call on if they really need to get 3 outs in a playoff game right now. And that's a really difficult situation, even for, a manager who has done everything, a Hall of Famer in my book, in Bruce Bochy. He just doesn't have a good option, if he needs 3 outs. So yeah, while the Rangers may be the best team overall in the West, I think that bullpen is a huge, huge Achilles heel for them.
No question about it. Their most trustworthy guy is probably Aroldis Chapman at this point. And where have we seen Aroldis Chapman have some postseason struggles in the past? As joining me on the show, we do have Steve Gardner. He does tremendous work over at USA Today Sports. And just staying with the American League theme here, I do feel like things are much more open in the American League than the National League. Now, I will preface it by saying this as well. How many times have we said, the LA Dodgers are the top team in the National League, and they just get swept out in the first or second round of the playoffs. So obviously that does need to be throwing in there, because I do think that it's very clear that the Dodgers are that top team in the National League. But in the American League, it does feel wide open, because the Baltimore Orioles, they've gotten to 100+ wins. They're going to be having that 1 seed, but the Tampa Bay Rays have been able to do a good job with their bullpen. We're talking about these 3 AL West teams. It feels like 2 out of 3 are going to be able to make it there. You've got the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think that there's flaws with all these teams. I think that there's upside with all these teams as well. And we were just talking about the bullpen. Whether or not Felix Bautista comes back in the fold for the Baltimore Orioles, that could be what ultimately does decide perhaps a series, something as small as a reliever coming back into the fold or being on the injured list.
I wonder, though, Greg, if he does come back, is he the Felix Bautista that we've seen all through the season? It was really, really disconcerting, especially if you're an Orioles fan, to see him in the kind of pain he was in when he left the mound the last time he was out there. While he is throwing bullpens and simulated games and things like that, you still really really don't know how physically he will react when he gets out there, gets on the mound, and actually throws one if he does make it into the postseason. I think what the Orioles have been able to do, though, is have a deep enough bullpen to where Yennier Cano, an all-star as well, in addition to Felix Bautista, has been able to move into that closer's role. And they've gotten some really good performances from guys you wouldn't expect. Tyler Wells, who was one of their best starters at the beginning of the year, closed that game out after, he came back from the minor leagues. He was sent down because he was struggling, and he came back, looked really, really good. John Means has come back from, Tommy John surgery after being away from the game for a year and a half plus, and has come back and has looked really, really good. So he could be an option too. I think the Orioles' depth out there in the bullpen is something that may be able to carry them despite the loss of the guy that I think has been the best reliever in baseball this entire season.
They did pick up Shintaro Fujinami at the All-Star break / the trade deadline. That I thought was a big giant nothing burger. He is very much a project at this point, but the pickup of Jacob Webb was very under the radar as well, and he's been relatively solid in that bullpen too. As joining me on the show, we do have Steve Gardner of USA Today Sports. He does a tremendous job there, and that is certainly going to be of intrigue with the American League side of things. And I did mention it with the National League side. If there's a team that you have above the Atlanta Braves, you do let me know. But I'm going to pencil in the Atlanta Braves as that number one team going into the postseason. But I alluded to it a little bit before as well. How many times haven't we seen that one seed go down very early in the postseason? Last year, it was the bottom two seeds in the National League that were playing in the championship series with the Philadelphia Phillies and the San Diego Padres. So certainly things do happen. And my question to you is, how do you take down the Atlanta Braves? Because this is a very fearsome lineup. But the one thing that I do take a look at with the Braves, especially with Max Fried currently dealing with some injuries, is that this is not necessarily that team that has the world's greatest pitching. And if you are a team like the Milwaukee Brewers and even the Philadelphia Phillies, just trying to utilize, in the case of the Phillies, Zach Wheeler and all those great starters as much as humanly possible, and for the Brewers, the likes of Freddie Peralta, Corbin Burns, as much as humanly possible, that can be a way to perhaps be able to spring an upset in a 5 or 7 game series.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, because when you've got the Braves in a 5-game series, I think their first series, whomever they play, they could be very vulnerable because, yes, Spencer Strider has been very good this year at times. He's also been hittable at times. And beyond that, as you said, if Max Fried is not able to pitch, we already know that Charlie Morton's not going to be available for the division series. And if you get a team like the Brewers, let's say, that has 3 really good starting pitchers, somebody that could, Corbin Burns, for instance, could go head-to-head with Spencer Strider, and we could have a classic, in the opener if those teams are playing each other. And then, with Brandon Woodruff and Freddie Peralta, I'd have to think you give Milwaukee an advantage in that particular series. So, yeah, the Braves in a short series, I think, could be vulnerable, even though they've been by far, to me, the best team in baseball this year, the most well-rounded team. But again, as we saw last year, and as you pointed out, it's no guarantee that you're going to advance in the playoffs because it's a total crapshoot and anybody could advance.
I am right there with you, and I do think that it is so interesting to take a look at the National League side of things as well, because we know that the Brewers are going to be playing that 6th seed with the National League in terms of the wild card, and, well, that's anyone's guess as to who's going to be getting that right now. Could it be the Cubs? Could it be the Miami Marlins? I think that if they lose out, there's a possibility that the Diamondbacks might be that 6th seed as well, so there's a lot of intrigue there, but with regards to the National League side of things, I do think that it's a very clear 1-2 with the Braves and the LA Dodgers. But how do you view the National League side of things? And do you think that there could be a little bit of chaos that happens there? Because I do take a look at that Philadelphia Phillies team, and I just feel very warm about them because it felt like towards the beginning part of the season, it was Kyle Schwarber providing a lot of power, and other guys were moving the line but not necessarily slugging out the deep ball. But I feel like the emergence of Trey Turner and Bryce Harper here in the back half of the campaign, coupled with Zach Wheeler pitching really well, I think that gives the Phillies a chance to be very dangerous on that side of the bracket as well.
Absolutely. And, we saw the Phillies catch fire in last year's postseason, get all the way to the World Series, and come close, but not close enough to beating the Astros. The experience is there. They are extremely dangerous. Nick Castellanos has played well in the postseason. This is a Phillies team that has more experience and could be very dangerous. And that's a real good point, too, Greg, because the Braves as the number 1 seed would take on the 4-5 winner, so they wouldn't get the Brewers necessarily until maybe the NLCS. But still, the same point remains. If you get solid starting pitching, and the Phillies have that in Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, they could certainly put a scare into the Atlanta Braves and could run the table for all that matter.
Yep, and with the Brewers, they would most likely, if they are able to advance, they would get the 2 seed in the Dodgers. And as we know, the Dodgers are very vulnerable with their pitching as well. So I actually do think that the Brewers would have a good chance of being able to go to that NLCS. So we've got a lot of intrigue here. Steve, it is going to be a tremendous postseason, but the lead up these next 2 days is going to be wild, as we certainly have much more games of playoff implications in the final 2 days this year rather than last year, which is what we like to see. It was a little bit of a snoozer last year, and I know you're very much up for it. You do great work over at USA Today Sports, so love to get people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Sure. Thanks very much, Greg. You can follow me on X. I'm at Steve A. Gardner, and you can look for me in the pages of USA Today in case you're looking for a hard copy and want to hold that into your hands. We're going to have playoff coverage in print and online. You can look for me there at usatoday.com. And I will plan on being, in fact, at Camden Yards for the AL Division Series opener to start off our playoff coverage and continuing through the playoffs with the rest of the USA Today baseball team. So really looking forward to some excitement this year in the postseason.
Steve, I know that you are out there in the DMV area. I know that there have been a lot of long-suffering Orioles fans that have been very much looking forward to this. So you do certainly enjoy that, and Steve does an amazing job taking a look at the game of baseball every single time he joins this podcast. Always lends tremendous insights, and he, much like myself, gassed up for what is going to be a tremendous final few days of the regular season and what sets up to be a tremendous postseason. Big thanks to Steve for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by our good friend Steve Gardner over there at USA Today Sports. Does an amazing job taking a look at this game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins this podcast, lends absolutely tremendous insights, and I know that he is gassed up for what is going to be a tremendous postseason, much like myself, and it should be a very fun one, as he's done a great job all season long taking a look at this great game, not just from just a normal day-to-day perspective, but also from a fantasy side of things as well. So big thanks to Steve for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GNet_81. We're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any intra-league games, they are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, clean, and easy. Feel like before I do get started, I should mention as well, lots of murkiness on the board. Like, we've got 16 games right now for Saturday. 4 have lines. There's a lot of TBD, so there are going to be more changes the next 2 days. Once we get to the postseason, things are going to be much more smooth sailing, but these next 2 days, it is going to be a bit rocky. I'm going to do my absolute best, but there is a lot of landmines to try to sift through. Like in this first game of 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board, it is the Miami Marlins on the road facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's to be determined on the bump for the Pirates. It's to be determined on the bump for the Marlins. I don't know if some guy with the first name To Be and the last name Termined has to pitch for the Pirates and then change uniforms or something like that, but this game is off the board. It's looking like we're going to get Quinn Pricer for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm thinking this is some sort of poo-poo platter of pitchers bullpen game for the Miami Marlins. As a result, in the poo-poo platter of pitchers against Quinn Pricer, I set the Marlins at a -132 and made my total to wear an 8.5 or less. Going to be taking a look at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. The Pirates actually don't have the world's worst bullpen. They've been an above-average bullpen since the month of July, as you got quite a few guys like Carmen Moldazinski, your closer, David Benar, Ryan Barucki. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA. This young kid at Hunter Stratton has been able to do a pretty solid job for them as well, but they're probably going to be trotting out their Quinn Pricer, who has actually led the team to a few wins. I am not impressed by him at all. He's got a 7.86 ERA. He's giving up 2.2 home runs, north of 5 walks per 9 innings. This guy is just not ready for the big leagues, and that's a guy that's filling the bulk of your innings. Not great to say the least. Meanwhile, for the Miami Marlins, I'm thinking you should be getting a lot of George Soriano here. If they don't use him up on Friday, you should be getting a lot of George Soriano. He made a start earlier in the year. He's made 25 total appearances. He's logging like 2 innings per appearance. He hasn't pitched in about a week. I'm thinking they are saving him for this spot. Young 24-year-old who's been posting up right around a 4 ERA. Does give up a few walks, but keeps the ball in the yard. And then from there, you've got a bullpen that it has been in the bottom 10 of the big leagues ever since the beginning of the month of August with regards to bullpenning rate. But they pick up Matt Moore. He's got a sub-3 ERA. That's a nice pickup for this team. Andrew Nardi, Tanner Scott have been able to give you sub-3 ERAs. You've had A.J. Puck be a little bit shaky, but all in all, I do think that the Marlins do have the better team here, as you saw Ori Soler pounding out north of 35 home runs as far this season. Since the trade deadline, this has been a team that has been right around 12th or 13th in the big leagues with regards to home runs on a per at-bat and a per-game basis. You pick up Jake Berger, who's been able to hit north of a 300 for the team ever since coming over from the Chicago White Sox. Josh Bell, since coming over from the Guardians, a home run every about 17 or so at-bats. And just take a look at the lineup that they trotted out there yesterday. Everyone since Jacob Stallings was entering into the game with north of a 305 on base. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're just trying to mix and match at this point. Jack Swinitsky has been able to give you north of 26 home runs and has been closing out the season strong, but guys like Joshua Palacios, Lovar Piguero, Andy Rodriguez are giving you a sub-300 on base. Really, other than Swinitsky along with Brian Reynolds, you don't have anyone with north of 15 home runs. So it does make it a very murky spot. I'm thinking once again it's going to be a bullpen game against Quinn Pricer in this spot. Set the Marlins at a minus 132 on the money line. Would need at least plus 133 to dive in on the Pirates, and then 8.5 for Leslie over 9 or higher to the under. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs are on the road. They're facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Jordan Wicks goes for the Cubs. It is old to be determined who is on the bump for the Brewers. This is a game as off the board. Now, with the Brewers, they are going to be resting the likes of Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta. They are getting gassed up for that wild card series, so they're setting their pitching rotation how they would like, and I'm thinking that once again with the Brewers, you're getting a poo-poo platter of pitchers for this team. If they do not use a guy that actually comes from my high school and someone that I know very well, Caleb Bousley, on Friday, this could be his spot on Saturday. I am thinking that they are going to utilize him, so I'm thinking that you're sort of going to be getting the likes of Bryce Wilson, Clayton Andrews, guys like this, so you sort of just have a bunch of guys fill about 5 or so innings for this team, and in this circumstance, I made it a darn near pick 'em with like Bryce Wilson and company. I set the Brewers at a minus 102 on the money line, and a total of where at 8.5 or less. I'm going to be taking a look at the over, 9 or higher to the under. What the Brewers have going for them is ever since the All-Star break, they're number 2 in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got your closer in Devin Williams, along with Abner Uribe, Joel Payamps, Hobie Milner, who have all been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. And though the Brewers are going to be trying to rest some guys, keep in mind that they are playing to keep the Cubs out of the playoffs. There is still a little bit of a motivational spot here for the Milwaukee Brewers. You've got yourself a Chicago Cubs lineup that just in the month of September, they've been touch and go. You've got pretty much everyone in the starting lineup giving you north of a 300 on base, which is solid. And you do have a guy in Cody Bellinger that's been able to hit above a 300, leading the way with 26 home runs, but he has not quite have been himself over the last few weeks. In the month of September, we have seen him have a big fall off after, post All-Star break. This guy was just so good. 342 on base over the last 30 days, just 1 home run in his last 14 games. But you've got he, along with Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Patrick Wisdom, Jameer Candelario, Dansby Swanson, Christopher Morel, all between about 20 to 26 home runs, and then someone like Nico Horner moving the line. If you looked at the Brewers lineup yesterday, they still had out there William Contreras along with Christian Yelich, a pair of guys who will give you north of a 360 on base. And the Brewers, ever since that final series in the month of July against the Atlanta Braves, that's when they acquired Carlos Santana, they've been averaging right around about 5.1 to 5.2 runs per contest. They have been a much better offensive team with Santana. He has been able to give this Milwaukee Brewers team a nice boost. He's been able to supply a home run every about 19 and a half at-bats, giving you a 310 on base, and bigger than that, he's been able to relegate out of the fold so many of these schlubs like Joey Weimer, Bryce Terang, Tyrone Taylor, these guys that were just giving you dead at-bats, and it does look like they're getting back in the fold. Their star center fielder and Garrett Mitchell as well, former first-round pick. He was really doing a nice job before he went down with injury. Sal Frelick has been able to do a rock-solid job, and though Willie Adames has not been aiming for a great average over the last 30 days, he has been able to give the team a 345 on base. So an intriguing spot with a Cubs bullpen that has been solid, not great, not terrible recently. Julian Merriweather, Mark Leiter Jr., Jose Quas have been able to give you some 3.75 ERA in a Cubs uniform. You've been sort of mixing and matching with someone like a Hayden Wesneski, and with Jordan Wicks, he's been able to do a good job since coming up to the big league level. I do think that there might be a little bit of regression coming for Wicks. Not too much of a strikeout guy, getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but all in all, has been able to do a good job of being able to keep the walks down as well. He's giving up fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, really hasn't been getting taken deep too much as well. So it's an interesting spot. I set this game as darn near a pick'em. I set the Brewers at a minus 102. So, I mean, anything to where I'm able to get the Brewers at even money or better looking there, and anywhere where I'm getting the Cubs pretty much at even money or better looking there. And with regards to the total, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under. Now we've got a mess on this one. 955, 956 going to be in conjecture with 981, 982 on the betting board. This is a double dip between the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. They got washed out yesterday when it was supposed to be Taijuan Walker and Tyler McGill. You had no announced starters for Saturday yet. The projection was Christopher Sanchez against Jose Quintana, and this is how I'm going to be operating. In some form or fashion, I think that the Phillies are out there Taijuan Walker and Christopher Sanchez, and in some form or fashion, the Mets go Tyler McGill along with Jose Quintana. So these games are completely off the board. In my handicap of Walker versus McGill, I set Walker as a minus 126 favorite, and a total to where an 8 or less. I was looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. Like when the game was taken off the board between Walker and McGill yesterday, I was looking at the Phillies and I was taking a look at that 8.5 under personally, and there's no reason to back off of that. And if we do get what I'm thinking in Quintana versus Christopher Sanchez, I'd be setting a similar handicap. An 8 or less, I'd be looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. And with Christopher Sanchez, made him a minus 134 favorite against Jose Quintana. And I've got relatively similar grades when it comes to much of the Mets pitching staff. Now, Jose Quintana has been the best road pitcher for the New York Mets, but so many of these guys like Tyler McGill, David Peterson, you go down the list for the Mets, they've got very drastic home and road splits. Like with McGill, he's been posting up north of a 6 ERA on the road, 3.40 ERA at home. For McGill on the road, he's giving up north of 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. He's giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings at home. Jose Quintana has really been the lone guy that has been pretty consistent home and road. And for Jose Quintana, if he does get a start here, 3.39 ERA, 3.45 fielding dependent, pitch a contact guy with 7 strikeouts and 3 walks per 9 innings, but giving up just half home run per 9 innings. If you do get Christopher Sanchez, he's been giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but playing out there in New York should be able to help him out quite a bit, as he and Taijuan Walker have really been trying to pride themselves on being able to just hold down the fort in general with Walker. It's more about mitigating hard contact and at the sacrifice of giving up walks. Meanwhile, for Sanchez, only giving up about 1.5 walks per 9 innings. So very interesting ordeal here, and we just don't have any idea what we're going to be getting with regards to starting pitchers on this. That does make it a little bit murky, but we do know that with regards to the Philadelphia Phillies, this team has got their lineup a popping, and we even saw them with their backups in the fold a few days ago against the Pirates after they had clinched. I mean, those backups were still able to do a relatively solid job. Yohan Rojas is right now hitting at 300 for the team, but let's call it what it is. You've got a guy in Kyle Schwarber, 46 home runs this far this season. I think that he's got as many home runs as he does singles. It's absolutely insane what we've been seeing on that front. He's been able to give you 344 on base despite the fact that he's hitting just a $197. But what has been big for this Phillies team down the stretch is that you've now got a balance of power, as you've got behind Mr. Kyle Schwarber pretty much 6 different guys who were able to give this team at least 18 home runs. Nick Castellanos, Alex Bohm, JT Realmuto, Trey Turner down for 1, Bryce Harper. Now, Trey Turner, he had a stretch where he had like 11 home runs over the span of 14 games. He has cooled down recently. He has been able to supply a grand total of 0 home runs in his last 47 at-bats, but he's been performing much better here in the second half of the season. Bryce Harper, he had just 3 home runs in his first 58 games of the season. In his last 67, he has been able to pound out now 18 of them, so he's been able to pick it up. Guys like Alec Bohm, Bryson Star, Brandon Marsh, these are guys sitting between about a 275 to a 280. And for the Mets, the top of the fold is solid. You've been able to have Pete Alonso do a good job being able to supply those 45-plus home runs. Even Francisco Alvarez, so he doesn't get on base a lot. He's got some pop in the bat. Francisco Lindor is up to 30-plus home runs, but why the Mets have been one of the less effective offenses in all of baseball is, for one, their batting average is right there at the bottom in the National League, and two, you've got so many guys at the bottom of the fold that they just don't move the line. Daniel Mendick, Jonathan Aruz, Brett Baty, Mark Vantinos, Omar Narvaez, all hitting at 215 or lower. I don't think any of these guys are giving you north of a 300 on base. And then you've got someone like I was mentioning before, Francisco Alvarez. Though he has his 23 home runs, 207 average, 281 on base. It's just not cutting it right now. For the New York Mets, this is a pretty deplorable bullpen, in which they had a lot of usage with regards to that double dip a few days ago. Brooks Raley, Adam Ottavino have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but past that, when you're getting into the likes of, Reed Garrett, Phil Bickford, Trevor Goff, Grant Hartwig, these guys are supplying north of 4 ERA. Drew Smith hasn't been too great. Anthony Kay has a 5.65 ERA. It's far from terrific for the Phillies. Craig Kimbrell's been a little bit shaky recently, but Jose Alvarado's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Seranthony Dominguez is rounding into form. Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strom have been able to give you sub-3.5 ERA. So, in both of ththese cases, setting the Phillies as a mid-sized favorite. If you do get Sanchez versus Quintana, I set this where I'm willing to lay up to about a minus 133 on the Phillies, see to play plus 135 on the Mets. And in both of these games, I projected Sanchez versus Quintana, along Taijuan Walker versus Tyler McGill, an 8 or less, looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under, and set Taijuan Walker to where I'm willing to lay up to a minus 125 if we get that same matchup from yesterday with he against Tyler McGill. So hopefully I was able to keep that as clean as humanly possible. 957, 958 is going to be the DK Network right to pick. We've got the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're under the road. They're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Drew Rom is on the bump for the Cardinals. Connor Phillips is on the bump for the Reds. 9 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. The under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. With the Reds, anywhere between minus 113 to minus 125 is your number. Plus 105 to plus 110 is your number on the Cardinals. I always get questions as to how I pick my DK Network write-up picks and everything like that, which game I select. And in this one, it's just trying to find a bet that I had on the board available overnight. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. Like, there weren't too many options. It's a really, really murky board, so we just had to pick something. I'm just going to be honest with you there, but that said, my write-up pick here is going to be on the over because you got 2 guys that are rookie starters that are not necessarily lighting the world on fire. With Drew Rom, 7.98 ERA. Now, his fielding dependent, more around a 5.6, but he has been very far from terrific, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate, north of a 4.5. He's made 2 starts in St. Louis. He's given up 9 runs in 9 innings. It has been deplorable. 7 starts thus far. He's given up 3+ runs in 5 of them. And then you've got Connor Phillips, who gets north of 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's giving up 2.2 home runs, worth of 4 walks per 9 innings. As well, this is going to be start number 5 for him. Hasn't necessarily lent a lot of length, and you've got a pair of bullpens that are far from amazing as well with the St. Louis Cardinals. You've got one guy currently in the bullpen with a sub-3.90 ERA coming into the series, and that'd be Ryan Helsley. He just came off the injured list a few weeks ago. Past that, you're looking at schlubs like Andrew Suarez, Casey Lawrence, Drew Verhagen, Ryan Tepera. It's not good, and for the Cincinnati Reds, they're 16th this year with regards to their bullpen ERA. Alexis Diaz has been pretty solid for the team. And then you've got guys that are able to do an okay job of holding down the fort. They're not great. They're not terrible. I'm talking about guys like Ian Gabo when he's been out there as he's been in and out of the fold. Derek Law, Dan Duarte, Lucas Sims, providing between about a 3 to a 3.7 ERA. So that has been sort of touch and go. But for the Cincinnati Reds, they've actually been better with regards to hitting on the road rather than at home. They're averaging about 0.3 of a run more when they're on the road rather than when they are at home. And they've got an on-base percentage that's in the top 8 in the big leagues when they are on the road. Number 4 with regards to the National League in terms of on-base percentage on the road, as they have been a little bit more topsy-turvy here in the second half of the season because Elly De La Cruz has just not been consistent. He's been only able to give this team about a 285 to a 290 on-base percentage in the second half of the campaign. But what I do like out of this team, Christian Encarnacion Strand is in fuego, ladies and gentlemen. 12 home runs thus far this season, all coming in the second half of the season. Entered into the series with a home run in 3 out of his last 4 games. So that has been absolutely instrumental for this team, as over the last 30 days, he's been one of the warmer hitters with regards to the National League, giving you about a 380 on base, 6 home runs over his last 14 games entering into the series. Spencer Steer has really been your main man here in the second half of the season as well. 345 on base, 12 home runs in the second half. You've been able to get some production out of Jake Fraley when he's been out there as well. He's been a little bit touch and go as he's been dealing with some injuries, but now they've been able to get him and so many others like Jonathan India, Joey Votto that were injured towards the beginning of the second half of the season back in the fold. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, this is a team dealing with injuries, but we did see Paul Goldschmidt back in the fold for them yesterday. You're going to be without the Nolans, Nolan Arenado, Nolan Gorman, which that's a big reason why the St. Louis Cardinals, since August 13th, they have been the lowest scoring team in the National League, averaging about 3.6 runs per contest entering into the series. But there's a lot of young guys who are going to be looking to prove something. Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, the outfield of the future, is going to be out there. You've got someone in Richie Palacios who's been able to do a nice job with his slugging, with 5 home runs in his first 83 at-bats, hitting about a 265. So I do think that there's some upside. Always a little bit suspect when you've got Luken Baker with regards to the cleanup spot due to all the injuries that the St. Louis Cardinals have had to overcome. But I do think that the Reds are going to be able to pound the heck out of Drew Rom in this one. And I do think that with regards to Connor Phillips, he's not really ready for the big league level as well. And I do think that that is going to allow the St. Louis Cardinals to put up quite a few runs in this ordeal. So my DK Network right to pick is on the over with the Reds. I set them at a minus 107 on the money line, getting a plus 108 or higher. Going to be taking a look ahead the St. Louis Cardinals at home to play some spoiler in this one against the Reds team, still trying to make the postseason, and I am going to be taking a look at the over with my DK Network right to pick. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves play against the Washington Nationals. Yohan Adon goes for the Nets. Spencer Strider is on the bump for the Braves. The Braves are between minus 340 to minus 355 favorites. Between plus 280 and plus 295 is your number on Washington. 9 is the total, under is minus 120, and the over is even. If you're looking to lay the run line of the Atlanta Braves, that is minus 155. I set my run line at a minus 173. This is typically the time of year where I absolutely love taking these just big, giant underdogs. I can't do it with Yohan Adon. Yohan Adon is just not great, to say the least. A 6.42 ERA, a 5.21 fielding independent, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks per 9 innings, giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Last time he faced off against the Atlanta Braves, it was a home start. He gave up 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings, had a tough time finding the plate as he has given up at least 3 walks in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and he's had a grand total of 15 walks in those last 4 starts. It's hard to be able to trust in someone that absolutely can't find the plate and is backed up by the bottom 5 bullpen in the big league. So you have had Jordan Weems along with Kyle Finnegan, Hunter Harvey be able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but you still employ some of these just absolutely awful relievers like Corey Abbott, along with Amos Willingham. Whenever you're trotting out there, Tanner Rainey, you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of these guys. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Braves, even if Spencer Strider is on a little bit of a tight pitch count, he is going to be backed up by guys like a Michael Tonkin, who's been able to give you sub-4 ERA. I really like Jackson Stevens as a little bit of a long guy as well. And it's a Braves bullpen that has had a little bit of shakiness here over the last few weeks. Guys like Brad Ann and company, sometimes they could be a roll of the dice, but they get Jesse Chavez back in the fold as well. And with Spencer Strider, he has certainly had some struggles at home. He's actually been a better road pitcher than he has been a home pitcher. 3.81 ERA with a fielding independent that's earning a point lower. He has been struggling over the last month or so, as for Spencer Strider. Last 5 starts, a 5.72 ERA. Has been just giving up a lot of contact in general, because if he doesn't get a strikeout, he can be hit relatively hard, and we have seen that with a 4.30 home ERA, and at home, he has been giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but the good news for him is that he goes up against a Washington Nationals lineup that is in the bottom 3 in the big leagues with regards to home runs on a per at-bat and a per-game basis. You do have a pair of guys in C.J. Abrams, Keibert Ruiz, both in between about a 245 to a 255, pounding out a combined 35 home runs, and then Lane Thomas is your main man, 20 stolen bases, 27 home runs, hitting about a 265, and for the Nationals, they're above average team with regards to batting average, but they really don't draw a lot of walks. This is a team that they actually do a relatively solid job of not striking out, but going to lead to a lot of weak contact. Meanwhile, with the Atlanta Braves, even if they're trotting out there some of the backups, which you got to feel like some of these guys are going to get some rest. I mean, someone like a Travis d'Arnaud would be starting on like 25 out of 30 MLB teams at this point. Ronald Acuna Jr., he's got a 40 and I believe now a 70 season. It's absolutely incredible there. Matt Olson, he's had north of 50 home runs. You saw in the fold Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, along with Olson and Acuna yesterday. I think that we're going to get the same today. You might be seeing some younger guys going out there, like you had Forrest Wall getting a few starts, which that's still a guy that's able to thump. Nicky Lopez has been able to put up some nice at-bats as well, so I think that this should be some domination from the Atlanta Braves. I believe that they've already clinched 1 seed, but I know that Spencer Strider, he's going to try to make the case for the Cy Young, which he's not going to be able to win. That's going to be going to Blake Snell, but that said, I'm going to be willing to lay the Atlanta Braves on the run line, even though it is a little bit of a sleepy spot for them. I set my total at an 8.9 because I do think that the Braves might be resting some of their normal starting bats. So looking at the run line of the Atlanta Braves to go along with the sign under 961, 962 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants playing with the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers. Tristan Beck is on the bump for the Giants. The Giants find themselves as underdogs, anywhere between plus 145 to a plus 152, anywhere between minus 162 to a minus 175 is your number on the Dodgers. 8 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. If you're looking at a run line of the Dodgers that is at even money, I was willing to go up to a minus 104. I was really thinking that I'd be siding with the Giants in this one, but they let go of their manager and Gabe Kapler, and I think that that's going to be a big giant deflator for some of these guys that are still on the roster. Gabe Kapler was always so good with regards to his platooning splits, and that's really the only reason why the Giants were able to generate any sort of offense whatsoever this year. You just take a look at the roster itself, and it's not been great. Like, Wilmer Flores, second half of the season, about a 365 on base, 14 home runs. He has been very good. Past that, you've got so many guys here in the second half that have just given you a big giant nothing burger. Blake Sobel, J.B.G. Davis, Mitch Haniger, Casey Schmidt. You just go down the list of guys with a sub 290 on base. Really, other than J.D. Davis, all these guys with 3 home runs or fewer. You've got Lamont Wade Jr., give you about a 332 on base with 8 home runs, and he is second highest on the team with regards to home runs in the second half of the campaign. And now they have to go up against Clayton Kershaw's probably only going to go about 5 innings in this one. He's went between 4 and 5 innings in all 3 of his starts here in the month of September. Has looked relatively sharp in those starts, so a combined 3 runs allowed in those 3 starts. Did give up a pair of home runs against the Miami Marlins, but all in all, I do like what I'm seeing from him, even with his 3.12 road ERA. He is now pitching in San Francisco. That's very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark against a bunch that he has been able to dominate this year, giving up 2 earned runs in 11 innings against San Francisco this year, and he is backed up by one of the best bullpens in the big leagues. As for the LA Dodgers, post-All-Star break, this team has been number 1 with regards to their bullpen ERA, as ever since Ryan Brazier has come over from the Boston Red Sox, he has been absolutely remarkable for this team, posting up a sub-150 ERA. And then you've got Broussard, Gratterall, Evan Phillips, Caleb Ferguson, when he has been a reliever, because they've trotted out their Caleb Ferguson as an opener. That has been an epic failure, but in the role of reliever, all have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They're getting Shelby Miller back in the fold as well. And for the San Francisco Giants, ever since the beginning of the month of May, this has been a top 3 team with regards to their bullpen as well. Tristan Beck has oftentimes had an opener used for him, so you do want to be noting if Tristan Beck is not going to be starting this game and instead is going to be coming out of the bullpen. But we have seen some shakiness recently from Tristan Beck over the last 30 days. He's only made 3 appearances. He's dealt with some injuries, and in that time span has allowed 10 runs, 8 of which earned over the course of 8 1/3 innings overall for the season. Has been giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. Does a good job of not allowing a lot of walks, but he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts either. He is backed up by the Rogers brothers, Camilo Duvall, Luke Jackson, these guys that will be able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, but he does have to go up against an LA Dodgers team that, even if they are resting a few guys, they once again have a lot of guys on their bench, much like the Braves, in which their bench guys are better than some of your starters, like Kike Hernandez and company. They do a good job of being a platoon because they do have so much depth. You still have Mookie Betts out there, who's been able to give you north of a 400 base, 39 home runs. You did notice that Max Muncy got a little bit of a day off yesterday. And who do you have in there for Max Muncy? Someone like a Miguel Rojas, who's able to move the line. James Outman, he has been very good recently as well. He's up to 23 home runs overall for the season. Had a hot start to the season, cooled off in the middle over the last 3 days. Has been able to provide about a 350 on base with 6 home runs over the course of his last about 90 or so at bat. So I do like the form that the Dodgers are in. I do think that this is a Giants team that very much is deflated with Gabe Kapler now out of the fold. So being able to get the Dodgers on the run line as they've won all but 15 of their games by multiple runs, I'm going to be taking a look at that. And with regards to the total, I did set my total at 8.1. Tristan Beck, he has been struggling just a little bit. And with Clayton Kershaw, like I said, I think that he's only going about 4 to 5 innings. So, going to be taking a look at the over of 8 and the run line with the Dodgers. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Detroit Tigers and the playoffs to the Cleveland Guardians. We know that Tristan McKenzie is going to be on the bump for the Guardians. It is to be determined who's on the bump for the Tigers. I just have this marked as bullpen game for the Detroit Tigers. It's going to be probably just a poo-poo platter of pitchers here, and I set the Guardians in this spot at a minus 133, and somebody told to wear an 8.5 or less. Going to be taking a look at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If this were the Tristan McKenzie of 2022, this would be a very demonstrative number, but with Tristan McKenzie, he just has not been able to make a lot of starts this year, and last we saw him, he just could not find the plate. So I do have my question marks with Tristan McKenzie coming into this one, as he's made 1 start since June. He got 5 outs. He gave up 3 runs and 6 walks. That is not necessarily too terrific. And McKenzie throughout his career has had command issues. So you have to wonder if coming back up from the minor league level, that is lingering with him. Now, he's made 1 road start this year and threw 5 scoreless innings against Minnesota. That was all the way back in early June. And I think that he's going to be a whole heck of a lot better than the 6 walks and 5 outs that he gave up in his last start. And he does get to go up against a Detroit Tigers lineup that is still a bottom 3 lineup with regards to runs scored per game, but do have to have my question marks there. It is the Tigers team that I was alluding to. It's a Lazarov for Miguel Cabrera's been able to move the line. The home run power's not been there, but he's better than your average hitter for this team, as he, Matt Vierling, Spencer Torkelson, they've been able to between about a 310 to a 325 on base. With Torkelson, by the way, 30 home runs thus far this season. You've gotten a little bit of something out of Parker Meadows, a 341 on base, but you do have the guys at the bottom of the fold, Jake Rogers, Javi Baez, Akil Baddoo, guys like this. They're hitting below a 225. I will say for Rogers, he, along with Kerry Carpenter, have both been able to give you 20-plus home runs. The Carpenter has been able to give you about a 340 on base, but this is a Tigers team that they don't have a lot of pop, and they've been really struggling at the plate this year. And for the Cleveland Guardians, the team is dead last in the big leagues with regards to total home runs, but we've seen Bo Naylor hit a pair of home runs this week. He, along with his brother, I believe, Josh Naylor, been able to do a solid job moving the line. Both of these guys have been able to give the team about a 350 on base. Naylor has 17 home runs. Josh Naylor, I should say. Despite the fact that he missed the entirety of the month of August, you've had Jose Ramirez be able to supply 24 home runs. He's been able to move the line, hitting for about a 356 on base, but you haven't had as much on base as you had last season. Last year, you had likes of Will Brandon, Steven Kwan, Andres Gimenez, Ahmed Rosario, Oscar Gonzalez, all north of 270. Only guy hitting at least a 270 for the team this year is Steven Kwan. As a matter of fact, Ahmed Rosario now plays for the LA Dodgers, so it's not been too terrific. They've been looking to guys like Ramon Laureano and Miles Straw, who give you a sub-310 on base to be able to move the line, but you do have a Guardians team that, even if you don't get a ton out of Tristan McKenzie, they do have, in my opinion, the deeper bullpen. You still have the likes of Reynaldo Lopez, Nick Sandlin, Aniel De Los Santos, Emmanuel Clase, who have all been able to give you a sub-375 ERA. Meanwhile, for the Detroit Tigers, Jason Foley, along Tyler Holton, they've been able to give you a sub-4 ERA, but you have to wonder what you're going to be able to get here, especially with Joey Wentz only being able to get 7 outs for the team yesterday. So they had to really dive into their bullpen yesterday. They're going to need to do so once again today. You're probably just going to be getting a lot of random guys. Like, you're probably going to see someone like a Brendan Hennepy get multiple innings in this one. I would not be surprised if they give Zach Logue quite a few innings. So it is a spot where I do think that you get a little bit more scoring than normal out of these two teams. 8.5 or less. Looking at the over 9 or higher to the under end with the Guardians. Made them a minus 133 money line favorite. Would need at least a plus 134 to take a shot on the Tigers. Would lay up to a minus 132 on Cleveland. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Tampa Bay Rays on the road facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. I had this lined up as Hyun-Jin Ryu for the Blue Jays going up against Zach Little of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays decided to use Aaron Savali as an opener for Zach Little yesterday, so he's no longer getting the start. This game is completely off the board, and when it was Ryu versus Little, I had Ryu as a minus 138 favorite to where an 8.5 or less. I was looking at the over a 9 or higher to the under. I'm thinking you're most likely going to get either Taj Bradley or a complete bullpen game for the Tampa Bay Rays, and that would probably be making me put the Blue Jays more around about a minus 150 or so if you get like Bradley or the poo-poo platter of pitchers. We'll be sticking with this total of 8.5 or less to the over and a 9 or higher to the under, just because you do have a pair of very solid bullpens in this one. When it comes to the Blue Jays, they've been able to get good production of Genesis Cabrera along Jordan Hicks ever since they came over from the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Romano has been able to give you sub-3 ERA. Jay Jackson is someone that's underrated along Tim Mesa. These guys have been able to do a rock-solid job. The big thing for the Blue Jays is just being able to move the line, because with the Blue Jays, their offense has been a whole heck of a lot better on the road than they have been at home. For the Blue Jays, they had those ballpark dimensions change in the offseason, and that has affected the Blue Jays to the negative much more than we expected. A lot of people thought that this was going to become a hitter's haven, and it has been anything but. Averaging only about 4.2 runs per contest at home, home run power way down when they've been at home. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been able to pick it up a little bit recently with 26 home runs, and then you just have a log jam of guys with between about 16 to 21 home runs. Matt Chapman, George Springer, Bubba Shedd, Brandon Belt, Danny Jansen is currently injured, and Dalton Varsho, and pretty much all of these guys, aside from Varsho and Brandon Belt, who's got a 387 on base, they're all between about a 320 to a 340 on base, and then you got Alejandro Kirk providing a 335 on base. Don't call his name. Kevin Kiermaier has been able to give you about a 320 on base. Whit Merrifield has been solid at being able to get on base as well, hitting about a 275, but I do think that the Blue Jays should be able to have a leg up if they do throw Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's got a fielding independent that's north of a 4.6, despite the fact that he's got a 3.31 ERA, because he has been giving up in the neighborhood about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. But with Ryu, you know that the command is going to be solid, about 2.6 to 2.7 walks per 9 innings. Not a strikeout guy, only about 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Going up against the Tampa Bay Rays team that I would not be surprised if you do see more of their reserves in there, but you still do have 6 guys on the lineup, even though Wander Franco's out of the fold, Jose Siri, Brandon Lau is out. Even with all those injuries, 6 different guys who have been able to give you at least 18 home runs, and pretty much all of them are hitting at least a 245. We have seen Harold Ramirez be able to do a solid job hitting above a 300 thus far this season. Rene Pinto, when he has gotten opportunities, has been solid as well. He has been a seldom used catcher that when he's been given his chances, in 53 at-bats over the last 3 days, 5 home runs. So he is someone that's able to supply a little bit of boom. We did see Yandy Diaz in the starting lineup yesterday, north of a 400 on base, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, I do think that they're certainly going to be carrying a little bit more in this game, but even some of the understudies of the Tampa Bay Rays are pretty solid pitchers. If you do get someone like Taj Bradley, he certainly does give up the deep ball, but he's able to get lots of swings and misses, and would not be surprised if we see a lot of Shawn Armstrong, someone who's been utilized for 3+ innings this year, and then past that, you've got the likes of Jake Diekman, Pete Fairbanks, Robert Stevenson, all these guys, when they've been in a Rays uniform, being able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA along with Kevin Kelly. So if it is something like Taj Bradley against Hyun-Jin Ryu, we'll be saying the Blue Jays in that neighborhood about a minus 150 or so, would need about a plus 150 to take a shot on the Rays, and then in half or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under. 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Baltimore Orioles playing us to the Boston Red Sox. Cutter Crawford goes for the Sox. Kyle Gibson is on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that's currently off the board in this one, but they are a team that on my projected handicap I have as a minus 153 favorite, and I made my total an 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher to the under. With Cutter Crawford, it has been so interesting to view his home and road splits throughout the season. He's got a 6 ERA at home, a 2.71 ERA on the road. and he's giving up the same amount of home runs per 9 innings in pretty much both locations as well. He's giving up about like 1.4 home runs per 9 innings when he's at home. On the road, it lessens very slightly to about 1.3, but it's not like it's a drastic difference, but he has been so much better when he's been away from home than when he has been at home, so it's certainly something to behold. Meanwhile, you've got someone in Kyle Gibson who he has pitched honestly a little bit better than what the 4.86 ERA would indicate. He's also not pitched as well as you would like to see from a guy with 15 wins as well. So you sort of have some metrics that make him look much better than what he is and some metrics that make him look much worse than what he is. As for Kyle Gibson, 4.86 ERA but a 4.18 fielding dependent, has done a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, giving up only about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, 7.5 strikeouts, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but it's also been a little bit worse at home rather than on the road. 4.57 road ERA compared to a home ERA of a 4.30, and in both locations, he's been giving up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, but hasn't been touched up too badly. He's going to be going up against a Red Sox team that they're now out of the race, so they're throwing out there some of their younger guys like Cedine Rafaela, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, is getting some love. You're seeing a bit more of Pablo Reyes. You still have Rafael Devers, Justin Turner, a pair of guys in between about a 272, 275, 20-plus home runs. And with Rafael Devers, he has been able to slug out 33 home runs as far this season. At the very least, he did going into the game on Friday. And among those home runs, 20 of them have been on the road. So he's been very good at being able to generate power on the road. But we've had just a loss year for Trevor Story. They're just giving him at-bats to try to get him online for next year because he's got a sub-250 on base. Got a home run yesterday for his third of the campaign, but it has been brutal. Meanwhile, for the Orioles, they clearly were still trotting out there an 8-team lineup yesterday as hitters 1 through 7 all entered into the game with north of a 305 on base, and with the Baltimore Orioles, that's just the way that they go about things. Over their last 40 games, they have been averaging between 5.9 and 6 runs per contest, and it's not necessarily because you've got those fearsome guys that are going to supply a bunch of home runs. Gunnar Anderson, Anthony Santander have been your main home run hitters with about 28 apiece, but you just have a lot of guys that are very consistent, like Austin Hayes hitting at 275 with a 325 on base, giving you a double-figure amount of homers. Jordan Westberg, not a ton of power, but he's able to do a nice job being able to move the lines. Cedric Mullins, a guy that has been a silver slugger in his career. He's had a little bit of a down year, but still has found a way to be able to get on base for the team. Ryan Mountcastle, I will say, ever since he came out the injured list the first time around, has been hitting north of 300 as well, and we were talking about this with Steve. With the Baltimore Orioles, they have been dealing with the injury to Felix Bautista, but they've done a good job of being able to mix and match. Jacob Webb has been able to give the team a sub-3.5 ERA. DL Hall has been relatively okay. Now, I want no part of Shintaro Fujinami, but Danny Colombi and Inter Cano, they're giving you a sub-3 ERA. And for the Boston Red Sox, you have Kenley Jansen, who's actually done a very solid job at the closer's position for the team, but Chris Martin, who is providing a sub-2 ERA, is out of the fold. So now you've got some schlubs out there like Zach Kelly, Mauricio Lovero, Nick Robertson. So I do think that for the Orioles, even though they have clinched everything up, these are still very meaningful games to their fans because the fans have seen a lot of losing, and I'm sure that the Orioles would love to put a few more wins up on the board. So in Gibson versus Crawford, decided to where I'm willing to lay up to a minus 152 on the Orioles money line, need at least plus 154 to take a shot on the Red Sox, and then in half or less of the over, 9 or higher to the under on the total. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals playoffs to the New York Yankees. As for the Yankees, it is good old Clark Schmidt who's going to be on the bump. For the Royals, I currently have this as a bullpen game, so this game is off the board, and if you know anything about the Royals bullpen, it sucks. So, I've got the Yankees to where I'm willing to lay up to about a minus 120 on the run line, plus 195 or higher looking at the Royals, and then 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under. This is typically where I do felt a little bit more to underdogs, but if we're getting a bullpen game from the Kansas City Royals, oh good grief. There is like nobody that is capable of giving you innings right now in this Royals bullpen. You've got so many schlubs out there. Jackson Cower, along with Taylor Clark, James MacArthur, Alan Alzadipa. All of these guys posting up north of a 5 ERA. Colin Sider has actually been halfway okay. And Carlos Hernandez has been a starter throughout his career. He's posting up a 5.35 ERA. He's taken as many losses as you'd expect out of a starter, as I believe that he's been on the hook for 10 losses thus far this season. But I mean, this Royals pitching staff in general is just absolutely horrible. Now, the New York Yankees lineup in general has been absolutely horrible this year, as you've got Aaron Judge, who continues to give you a good effort, 400 base. He's giving you a home run every about 10 or so at bats. He has not given up on the season. Gleyber Torres, he has continued to give you 25 plus home runs, about a 345 on base. But then you get into the really bad bats, as you got Ben Rodfit, Everson Pereira, Anthony Volpe, Giancarlo Stanton, Austin Wells, Ben Rodfit, Oswaldo Cabrera, Oswaldo Peraza, Jake Bowers, all hitting at 216 or lower, all with a sub 300 on base. I mean, with Volpe, he's been able to give you 20 plus home runs along Giancarlo Stanton, but man, it's rough. Meanwhile, for the Kansas City Royals, man, it's rough. You do have Nelson Velasquez, who with this team has been able to give you a home run every about 10 or so at bats, but you're now relying upon guys like MJ Melendez, Kyle Isabel, Logan Porter, these guys hitting between about a 225 to a 235. Not necessarily a lot of pop in those bats. Salvador Perez, they've got him playing first base right now to take a little bit of pressure off those knees. 20 plus home runs. He's been able to about a 250. Bobby Witt Jr. post All-Star break has been able to 300 as well, but these are a pair of rough lineups. And with Clark Schmidt, I actually like what I've seen out of him thus far this season. In his last 26 total appearances, he has allowed 3 runs or fewer in all but 4 of them, so he's been able to do an okay job of holding down the fort ever since that brutal month of April where he just couldn't get anything right. He's been posting up about a 4.50 ERA ever since, so with about a 4.50 fielding independent, he's been able to give you about 8.5 strikeouts at 2.7 walks per 9 innings. It's not amazing, but he's a guy that's able to get the job done, and he should be a way, way better than what the Royals are trying out there in the bullpen. And for the Yankees, the bullpen has taken a little bit of a setback ever since they've had to convert Michael King into a starter, but you still have some guys that are pretty trustworthy out there. Keenan Middleton, Nick Ramirez, Ian Hamilton, Clay Holmes, these guys giving you a sub-4 ERA, way better than what the Royals are going to be able to trot out there. So, willing to lay up to a minus 122 with this Yankees run line. You need at least a plus 195 to take a shot on the Royals on the money line. Then 8.5 or less, going to be taking a look at the over 9 or higher to the under. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the LA Angels and they play us to the Oakland A's. As Joe Boyle is confirmed for the Oakland A's, it is to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Angels. So, this is another game that's currently off the board, and I was projecting as if we would get one Kenny Rosenberg getting the start, and if you get old Rosenberg going up against Mr. Boyle, I said the Angels at a minus 147 on the money line, and then a 8.5 or less would be looking at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. I actually like what I've seen out of Kenny Rosenberg in a small sample size. With Kenny Rosenberg, went out there through 5 scoreless innings against the Minnesota Twins, and in the 3 starts / 1 bulk appearance that he's gotten since the beginning of the month of September, 3 runs or fewer surrendered in all but 1 of them. He's given up 2 walks or fewer in all of them. Not too much of a strikeout guy at this point of his career, but you know what? For an Angels team that has been totally dysfunctional, that has been sad and pathetic, he's honestly been a little bit of a bright point. Meanwhile, for Joe Boyle, I do think that there's a little bit of upside with him as well. As for Mr. Boyle, credit where credit is due. He's thrown 9 career innings. He has yet to give up an earned run. So, yay verily for the Oakland A's. As for Mr. Boyle, last time he went out there, was honestly able to throw very well against the Detroit Tigers. 1 earned run in 6 innings. He was able to get the job done. He was able to get the win. And if you look at what Boyle did at the minor league level this year, I mean, this is with throwing some innings out there in the PCL. That's a juice ball league. He was getting 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he was also giving up 7 walks per 9 innings. He's been doing a better job with regards to command. In that start against the Tigers, only gave up 1 walk in 6 innings. So clearly, a little bit of this was dictated by the fact that he was having to throw in a very inclement situations, to say the least. But all in all, I do think that you've got a pair of young pitchers that can be okay, and they're backed up by bullpens that are not good. For the LA Angels, there's just really not a lot of trustworthiness. Carlos Aceves has really hit the toilet bowl here in the second half of the season. Aaron Loop and guys like that, Jose Soriano and Marte, they're all just not great. Meanwhile, for the Oakland A's, you have been able to have Danny Jimenez along. Trevor May be able to give you a sub 4.50 ERA, but Lucas Ursich, Zach Neal, guys like this, it's not good. And for the Oakland A's, they actually do it better on the road than they do at home. At home, the A's average right around about 3.3 runs per contest. That was the worst mark in the big leagues. Meanwhile, on the road, not great, but more like 3.8 to 3.9 runs per contest. Like Ryan Noda, you take a look at his home and road splits, and he overall for the season has been able to give you about a 365 to a 370 on base, but on the road, 402 on base, at home, .331 on base. You've got some like a Brent Rooker thus far this season has been able to slug out 29 home runs. Out of those home runs, 16 of them have come on the road. Oakland, very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which is why the offensive numbers have been suppressed. But still, you do have guys like Tony Kemp, Nick Allen, Tyler Soderstrom, J.J. Blade, all you guys sub 220. Meanwhile, for the LA Angels, Brandon Drury continues to give you good at-bats. He's been able to slug out 24 home runs, hitting north of 255. And Logan O'Hoppe, he's been able to give you a home run every about 13 or so at-bats. Randall Grichuk is a guy with pride. He's still trying to grind it out for the team. Noah Chanel at the top of the fold has been able to give you north of a 280, but certainly it's a Angels lineup that is not quite what it was at the beginning part of the season, but I still do think that they've got a little bit more talent than Oakland, and I do think that you've got a pair of interesting young starters backed up by horrible bullpen. So, ain't half or less looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, and with the Angels, willing to lay up to a minus 146 with them, plus 148 or higher looking at the A's. 973, 974 on the betting board. It is the Walker Texas Rangers on the road facing off against the Seattle Mariners. To be determined is on the bump for the Mariners. To be determined is on the bump for the Rangers. This is a game that is off the board. Unless if something completely unforeseen happens, it looks like it should be Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. And right now it's looking like John Gray for the Rangers, but that is subject to change. In Castillo versus Gray, I did set the Mariners at a minus 148 on the money line. Would be willing to lay up to a minus 147, plus 150 or higher. Looking at the Rangers, and then 7.5 or less, we'll be looking at an over, an 8 or higher to the under. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but it does feel like Luis Castillo does clam up in some bigger situations. They badly needed him in that start against the Houston Astros, and he crumbled like a cheap suit. That was not necessarily too terrific, but overall for the season, Luis Castillo has been very rock solid, as Castillo is giving up about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but he's been really able to mitigate the walks this year. He's been giving up about 2.3 to 2.4 walks per 9 innings, while still getting between 9.5 to 10 strikeouts per 9 innings for Luis Castillo. He does have an ERA that is about 0.7.5 points lower when he is at home rather than on the road, as well as he's got about a 378 fielding independent. And if you do get John Gray, he's been getting about 8.2, 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but not quite where it's been in the past. He certainly comes in rough form, to say the least. I know that he's been dealing with some ailments. His last start that he had against the Angels is best in quite some time. He had given up 3+ runs in each out of his previous 4 prior to it. He gave up 1 run against the Angels, but that's against an Angels team that is completely sliding away. And for the Texas Rangers, the big thing for this team is what they're able to get on offense. We were talking about this with our good friend Steve Gardner. You've got a Texas Rangers team that yesterday they trotted out there a lineup with all but one player hitting at least a 260, and the one player that was the outlier, Adolis Garcia, with 39 home runs and north of 100 RBI thus far this season. You've got Marcus Semien along Corey Seager at the top, providing a combined 62 home runs. Seager is giving you darn near 400 on base. He's been getting a home run every about 14 or so at bats, and Marcus Semien, low-key, has been absolutely in fuego recently. I mean, this guy has 5 home runs in his last 55 or so at bats. Last 30 days, 350 on base, 9 bombs. So that has been big. You get back Josh Young as well. He's been a little bit in and out of the fold. So getting him back has really been able to fortify this offense. Evan Carter, he's only had about 55 career at-bats. He's already got 5 home runs. That's a big one for the Seattle Mariners. They just have to find a way to whiff a little bit less. As Mateus Hernandez, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, I'll give you at least 26 home runs. Rodriguez, he's had a tough time at some big spots as well, not gonna lie, but when he was on in August, that was really able to help out a Seattle Mariners team that they just have to find a way to be able to get guys on base to be able to help make these home runs worth more than just a solo shot. Josh Rojas has done a good job of that, hitting about a 260 ever since he's come to Seattle. J.P. Crawford in the second half of the season, north of a 375 on base, and Eugenio Suarez only hits about a 232 with regards to his average, but his on base percentage has been solid. And then I like Mike Biltford tough, because this guy's been able to give you a home run every about 12.5 at bats. And for the Seattle Mariners, the big advantage for them coming in the bullpen. Aroldis Chapman has been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA along with Jose Leclerc, and those are like the lone 2 guys you're able to rely upon for the Rangers. Will Smith has been completely terrible here down the stretch. Brock Burke has been a little bit of a roll of the dice, and that's that. There's really nobody else that you really want out there on the mound from the Rangers bullpen. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Mariners, got a lot of depth with regards to this bullpen. Matt Brash, along Justin Topa, Trent Thornton, Andres Munoz, guys like this, they've been able to do such a rock-solid job all season long, and I do think that Castillo should have a nice pitching advantage. And if you don't get John Gray, you're probably looking at Cody Bradford, and Cody Bradford is going to be a very sizable underdog. He would probably be a minimum plus 175, so we're going to project as if we are getting Jon Gray against Luis Castillo. I do think that the Rangers still probably going to have something to play for here, so if you do indeed get Luis Castillo against Jon Gray, I'm going to lay up to a minus 147 on the Mariners, plus 149 or higher looking at the Rangers, and then 7.5 or less looking at the over 8 or higher to the under. Again, if you don't get Jon Gray and you get something less than trustworthy, this is probably going to north of a plus 175 with regards to the Rangers. 975, 976 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres. At the road, they're facing off against the Chicago White Sox. Mike Clevenger goes for the Southsiders, and Michael Wacha, he goes for the Padres. Padres between minus 140 to minus 148 favorites, between plus 124 to plus 130, your number on Chicago. The total is 8.5, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105, and I did set my total at an 8.7. Going to be taking a look at the over. I do think that Michael Wacha continues to be doing for a little bit of regression. And while I actually do like what Mike Clevenger has been able to do this season, he's just backed up by a ghastly bullpen, which is why I did set the San Diego Padres minus 155 on the money line. If you're looking at the run line, you're finding that anywhere between even money and plus 110. Set my run line at a plus 107. I'm going to be willing to take the run line as the Padres have won 7 games this year by 1 run. They either win by multiple runs or they lose outright. There has not been any in between. So I've been learning to just, when I back the Padres, just lay the run and a half with them because they're probably not going to be playing in a 1-run game. But taking a look at what you're getting out of Mike Clevenger, he's actually been really good here in the second half of the season. Overall for the campaign, 3.40 ERA, 4.28 fielding independent. Has not been a high strikeout guy, giving you about 7.5 strikeouts at 2.6 walks per 9 innings, but has been able to mitigate some hard contact. And for a White Sox team that has been absolutely deplorable, he's been one of the very, very few guys that have shown any sort of effort whatsoever. So that is very much appreciated. But when it comes to Mike Clevenger, second half of the campaign, ever since he came back on July 29th, it's actually been really good. 2.96 ERA, 3.73 fielding independent. He's been able to keep the ball in the yard, giving up a little bit less than a home run per 9 innings. And then when it comes to Michael Wacha, I do feel like he's been quite fortunate on balls in play this year. 3.39 ERA, but fielding independent more around a 4.01. Opponents are hitting on balls in play at 2.71. His career average is at 2.98. He's only been giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, but has been struggling a little bit more recently, giving up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. But this is also a White Sox team that's completely dead at this point. They've got the worst win percentage in the big leagues ever since the All-Star break. Luis Robert is now on the injured list. He is done for the season, so they don't have anyone in the lineup that's giving you north of about 21 home runs. You do still have a few guys that will be able to hit for a decent average, as Eloy Jimenez is hitting about a 275 or so, and then Andrew Benintendi, Andrew Vaughn, Yoel Moncada, Elvis Andrus, all hitting between about a 250 to 265, but Andrew Benintendi is right now the only guy in the lineup with north of a 322 on base. This team does not draw walks whatsoever, and then you've got guys like Lennon Sosa, Corey Lee, Gavin Sheets, Trace Thompson, all hitting at 220 or lower. Tim Anderson has been terrible this year as well. And then for the San Diego Padres, you saw Juan Soto, Manny Machado out there fighting hard with Juan Soto. He's been able to give you north of 30 home runs, north of 4 on base. It's been a little bit all over the place post All-Star break. And the big thing for this San Diego Padres team is the bottom of the fold. When you've been trotting out their likes of Brent Sullivan, Trent Grisham, Matt Carpenter, when they had him, Rougned Odor, these guys hitting at 220 or lower, that has really been hurting this team. Sullivan up to about a 239 with regards to his average, but about a 267 on base. Need a little bit more there. You do have Xander Bogaerts, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base, and a lot of power towards the beginning part of the season that faded away towards the back half of it, but he and Ok-Sung Kim have done a solid job at the top of the fold, just nobody at the bottom being able to drive them in. That has been a little bit rough to say the least, but I do think that with the White Sox trotting out there so many bad arms, like Lane Ramsey, Aaron Bummer, when he's been out there, Jimmy Lambert, all these guys with north of a 5 ERA. When Brian Shaw is one of your more trustworthy bullpen pieces, you know that it's really, really bad. And on the flip side for the San Diego Padres, you got Tom Cosgrove, Josh Hader. These guys have been able to do a nice job with a sub-2 ERA. We've noticed guys like a Luis Garcia, Robert Suarez, after horrible starts of the season, they've been a little bit more respectable as well. So I had an 8.5, looking at the over, and getting a plus 110 or higher, willing to back the Padres on the run line. 977, 978 on the betting board, the Houston Astros, and they're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. On the betting board, Justin Verlander is confirmed for this start. As of right now, Arizona is to be determined, but unless if something unforeseen happens, you gotta think that Merrill Kelly is going to be getting the start. And if you do indeed get Verlander against Merrill Kelly, I did set the Astros as a minus 126 favorite and made my total to where an 8.5 or less. I'd be taking a look at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Justin Verlander just flat out shoved in his last start against the Seattle Mariners. He was able to post up their 8 scoreless innings. Prior to that, I came in struggling. He had given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his previous 4 starts. I don't think that he's going to do what he had done the 2 starts earlier and gave up 5 runs over the course of 7 innings against the Oakland A's. I also don't think that he's going to go out there and give up 1 run in 8 innings like he did against the Seattle Mariners. I think that's going to be something in between. Overall for the season, Verlander, a 3.32 ERA, 3.87 fielding and penalty. Swing and miss stuff has been down with him a bit. 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but other than that one start that he had when he was with the Mets against the Yankees where he had a bunch of walks, he's been relatively solid with regards to command. With the Houston Astros, he's been allowing about 1.6 walks per 9 innings, so like what you're seeing there. And for Merrill Kelly, overall for his career, he's posted up an ERA that's about a point better when he's at home rather than when he is on the road, and his swing and miss stuff is up this year. He's been able to get about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but his walks are at a career high as well. He's been giving up about 3.2 to 3.3 walks per 9 innings as well, so there's the positives and the negatives. If you take a look at the way that Merrill Kelly is coming into this start, relatively good form. He had that one terrible start against the New York Mets where he had given up 7 runs, but he has given up 1 or 2 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 2 of his starts in the second half of the season as well. For Merrill Kelly at home this far this season, a 2.70 ERA compared to a 4.07 ERA on the road, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, but now has to face off against a Houston Astros team that is number 1 in the American League since the beginning of the month of June in terms of runs per game. Got Yordan Alvarez giving you well north of 400 on base, 31 home runs, 29 bombs out of Kyle Tucker has been very helpful as well, but past that, Yanier Diaz, Alex Bregman, Chas McCormick giving you 20+ home runs has been big. McCormick and Bregman both being able to move the line with north of a 350 on base. Jose Altuve has been incredible, being able to hit well above a 300, 400 on base. You've got such a fearsome lineup, and now you've got Michael Brantley back in fold as well. Meanwhile, with the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've got to love the fact that you've got Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, both giving you about a 350 on base, 25 home runs apiece, and with Carroll, 50+ stolen bases. The big key with this team, though, Christian Walker, their leader in home runs, 33 home runs. He got back online a little bit more in that series against the Chicago White Sox. Getting a multi-home run game was big because over the last 30 days, entering into the series, about a 283 on base. You can tell that he went cold with the bat, but seems like he's starting to heat up a little bit more. And then past that, you do have to be taking a look at these guys that were good towards the beginning part of the season. Gabriel Moreno, Geraldo Perdomo, and expecting a little bit more out of them. With Moreno over the last 30 days, he's been able to give you about a 385 on base. Not a guy that's going to give you a bunch of home runs or anything like that, but him just being able to move the line is big. And for Geraldo Perdomo, was great towards the beginning part of the season. Last 30 days entering in the series, hitting a $143 with a 295 on base. You just need a little bit more there. And with the Arizona Diamondbacks, all throughout the season, this has been one of the more, shall we say, shaky bullpens in the big leagues, but you do have Kevin Ginkel who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Andrew Selfrank, I believe, has yet to give up a run for the team. Ryan Thompson, Paul Sewald have been solid at going into the game that we saw on Friday. The Arizona Diamondbacks in the month of September, number 3 in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA in the month of September. The Astros have been more around number 6. You've been able to get good production out of Kendall Graveman, Brian DeBreu, Hector Neris. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA. Ryan Presley, though, has been shaky, and they had to trot out their Jose Urquidy for an impromptu start because JP France had an unexpected family emergency, so that throws things a little bit out of whack for the Diamondbacks as well. But in Verlander versus Kelly, assuming that we get this sort of matchup, we are going to be setting the Diamondbacks where I need at least plus 127 to be able to take a shot there. Want to lay up to a minus 125 on the Astros, and then 8.5 or less, looking at the over, and a 9 or higher to the under. And we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins. They are on the road facing off against the Colorado Rockies. It's to be determined on the bump for the Twins, and it's to be determined on the bump for the Rockies. So this is another game that's off the board, but I have projected as if we're going to be getting Chris Paddock going up against Carl with a K. Kaufman, and with regards to Carl with a K. Kaufman going up against Chris Paddock, I did set this to where I'd be willing to lay up at about a minus 123 on that Twins run line. Would need at least a plus 185 to take a shot on the Rockies, and 12.5 or less to the over, 13 or higher to the under. with Chris Paddock, if he does make the start, it's pretty much going to be a bullpen game for the Minnesota Twins. He has been out of the fold for darn near a year. He's been able to make a relief appearance or two for the Minnesota Twins, and when he's been out there, you just haven't seen a lot out of him. Gave up 3 runs in 2 innings against the Oakland A's, and this could be a spot where he and Dallas Keuchel sort of piggyback off of one another, and I would be willing to downgrade if I know that we're getting Dallas Keuchel, as he's actually been okay when he's come out of the bullpen as a starter. It's been bad, to say the least, with Dallas Keuchel at this point of his career. He's just a big giant fade, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, gives up right around 4 walks per 9 innings, so you got a not so great situation there, and with our good friend Carl with the K Kaufman, if he's going to be out there as well, has been less than terrific for him as well, as he's made 3 starts, 10 total appearances, an ERA that is a 7. He's got a negative WAR. He's been giving up quite a few walks, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. There's just really not a lot to like there. And for the Colorado Rockies, this has been arguably the worst bullpen in the big leagues this year, and you just take a look at the second half of the year. I mean, there were some guys like Daniel Bard, like Brent Suter, that in the first half of the season, they were actually looking halfway respectable. And then post-All-Star break, they just went straight down the tubes. Matt Cook, Tyler Kinley, Justin Lawrence, Daniel Bard, all with north of a 5.5 ERA post-All-Star break. Gavin Hollowell's in that fold as well. You just haven't gotten any sort of bullpen pitching out of this team. Nick Mears with a 4.76 ERA post-All-Star break has been one of your best pitchers. And for the Colorado Rockies, they're still giving you a little bit of effort with regards to their approach at the plate. You still have Charlie Blackmon trying hard to be able to up out his numbers a little bit. We've been seeing Chris Bryant in and out of the fold. Shock, surprise, surprise. And Eliodius Montero, he's been able to give you north of 350 on base when he's been at home, like a 250 when he's been on the road. You've got big home and road splits with quite a few of these guys, but it's actually not as demonstrative as we've seen in past years. Like during the 2022 campaign, the Rockies were averaging about 3 runs per contest on the road, 5.7 runs per game at home. This year it was more like 5.3 runs per game at home compared to more like 3.7 runs per game on the road. And for the Minnesota Twins, they've really been able to get a lot out of some of their younger guys as well, because likes of Michael A. Taylor, Joey Gallo, Carlos Correa, Max Kepler that have been able to give you 18 plus home runs, they just really haven't been the guys that have delivered to you towards the back half of the season. It's been the guys that have been able to move the line. Ryan Jeffers, along with Donovan Solano, Royce Lewis, these guys giving you north of a 360 on base. Matt Wallner, they've been very efficient with their plate approach, giving you a home run in the case of Wallner every about 13 or so at bats. Royce Lewis has had 5 grand slams over the last 6 weeks. It's been incredible to take a look at it. For the Twins, if you're able to get past sort of like the piggyback ordeal of something like a Keuchel and a Chris Paddock, you do have some guys in the bullpen that have been relatively solid. Yohan Duran has been a very good closer, and then you've got Griffin Jax posting up about a 3.90 ERA, but Cody Funderburk has been solid. Emilio Pagan has been able to give you some good innings as well, and it looks like they're getting Brock Stewart off the injured list as well. So if it is indeed Mr. Paddock going up against Carl with the K Kaufman, willing to take a 12.5 or less to the over, 13 or higher to the under, setting the Twins as about a minus 123 favorite on the run line. We need at least plus 185 to take a shot on the Rockies, and that will wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my old X timeline at GN_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, and that means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. And a big thanks to Steve Gardner of USA Today for joining me on the show as well, and I'll be chatting with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.